Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. We are now officially in autumn, so I thought what we do in this video is dedicate some time to making the house feel a little bit more autumnal. We haven't actually started these videos downstairs in a very long time, and in all honesty, it's mostly because the downstairs is feeling very empty at the moment. If you've watched the channel before and if you've watched my videos, you will all be aware that we actually got rid of our dining table and everything in our dining room very recently. And for the past, I'd say probably 2 months, it's just been sat completely empty. So we're gonna have a little rejig in there today. I did actually just purchase a new rug from John Lewis, which has just come in the post. So we'll unfold that in a minute and I'll get your opinions on that. But before we go into the dining room, I thought I'd update you on the living room. Again, this hasn't been shown in a long time. I think I did mention the footstool that we got. This is probably the most recent purchase in this room, but this ottoman footstool, whatever you want to call it, is from Rowan & Wren. Rowan & Wren are a British company. I believe everything is made in the UK, and this ottoman is a really beautiful ottoman in like a Chesterfield button back style. It's got a really, really lovely sage green pinstripe colour. And I think it just suits the colour scheme in this room really well. The scale of it's really lovely for this room. And I've always just really, really loved the style of these types of ottomans, especially in a living room when you use it as a coffee table. So as you can see, now this might annoy quite a few people, but the look we're going for in this room is to turn this ottoman into a sort of coffee table. I love the idea of having lots of books stacked up. In really old traditional homes, you always see these like these ottomans just covered in books, newspapers, lamps, lights, candles, plants, all the sort of miscellaneous items in your house. And I just think it looks really, really lived in and really wonderful. So that's the inspiration we're going for this room. You'll see we have a few bits. This is from our antiques haul from the Cotswolds a few weeks ago. We've got a little sort of like box here. I think it's a card box, obviously, that it was used as, that we're using to store our television remotes at the moment. And there's just a few candles, a nice little plant. But yeah, the future sort of plan for this is just to make it really, really lovely with lots of little bits and kind of the opposite of what it should be used for, which is a footstool. So yeah, that's what it's looking like at the moment. All of the books on it are actually a mixture of the cookbooks that we've had in our house for a really long time. We've got lots of books from like Alison Roman, some ASHLEIGH books, all of my ASHLEIGH books. And just basically some Christmas presents, birthday presents that we've got from our family and friends in the past few years. But the goal is to have more sort of interior design books, garden design books, things that serve as more inspiration rather than just sort of style. We did actually go into Waterstones. I feel like I'm just telling you about my life. We did actually go to Waterstones when we were in Islington last week, and we bought quite a few books, and the woman in the shop just looked at us really bizarrely, like she'd never seen a book order for that much before. And she asked us if we were garden designers, because I bought quite a few garden design books. And we just said, no, we like them for styling, which I know is sacrilege for book lovers. But in reality, they are mostly for styling. I have read through quite a few of them, and they do serve as really, really lovely inspiration books. So they're the best of both worlds, basically. They look lovely and they serve a function if you want to read them. But some of my favourite books that we purchased, I've been wanting this book for a really long time. It's An English Vision by Ben Pentreath. If you know, I'm sure you will if you like interiors, but Ben Pentreath is, I think he has his own interior design and architecture company. And I believe he's also responsible for helping design Poundbury, which is King Charles's like a little village in London, in England, and it's all basically new builds in a traditional style. If you flick through it, you'll see all of their designs for the houses and the rooms that they sort of showcase in this book, and there's just lots of really lovely stories. But yeah, it's a really, really lovely book. So I definitely say if you're looking for a nice coffee table book that's not like a Vogue, Dior or Chanel book, definitely stick to someone who knows what they're talking about. And an interior designer and an architect is probably one of the best people that you could buy a book from. Another book that I really love is this book, which is called English Country House Style, and this is from Milo and Katie Campbell. This again is a really, really lovely, sorry, I'm just sat on you, aren't I? This is a really lovely book that serves lots of sort of different inspiration images for like dining rooms, living rooms. I believe this book breaks everything down into rooms And again, it's very much my style, traditional oil paintings on the walls, lots of nice fabrics, very old worldy. So yeah, they're two of my favorite books. And then we just got quite a few design books for gardens. But yeah, that's the image for this sort of area of the house. Where you're positioned at the moment used to be our armchair, our red armchair, which yesterday has very sadly gone to another family. We decided that it was just not right for this room anymore. We do need to replace it with a really lovely sort of patterned armchair that we're yet to find. So that's next on my list to find. So let's wait another 6 months until I find that. But yeah, there's going to be a really lovely armchair in that corner of the room. Obviously, we've all seen this really beautiful sofa that we've just got from Love Your Home. This is the Eleanor sofa in the house linen with a really pretty olive piping detail around the edge, which again, I think suits this room really well. So the direction we're going for this room is like cozy. I want to get lots more fabrics into this room. So I think I'm going to try and source some throws for this sofa to make it sort of look more colourful and more patterned. Change these cushions up. I think I'm going to swap these out for some other ones. And yeah, I think this room in the next few months will start to look really lovely. I think I've nearly finalised the design for the fireplace. What I'm thinking, I'm going to talk you through it right now because it's in my head, fresh in my mind. What I'm thinking is for the back of the fireplace to have a traditional red brick slip. So I want something that looks quite aged, quite sort of rustic, like it's been there for a really long time. And then I think for the bottom of the hearth, the fireplace hearth, I believe is what it's called, I'm just going to pour some concrete into it. I've done lots of research and I've looked at lots of inspiration images. And I'd say all of the images that I sort of love and I am drawn towards are very simple fireplaces. I think when you start to add tiles like ASHLEIGH, marbles, anything too busy, I think it takes away from the sort of simplicity of a fireplace. So I think what we're going to try and do is get our tiler back who did our kitchen tiles, ask him to tile all the brick slips on the sort of walls of the fireplace, and then also get him to pour concrete directly into the bottom of the fireplace. I'll pop up some inspiration images now of what I'm talking about, and then obviously after we'll pop in a bioethanol fireplace because this fireplace is not real, so we can't have a real fireplace in there. So this room, hopefully for Christmas, will be nice and cozy, and when we host all of our family yet again this year, hopefully it'll be a little bit more cozier than last year. So yeah, they're the sort of goals for this room before the end of the year. On to the main sort of point of this video, autumn homemaking. I'd say autumn for me is all about making your house as cozy and as warm as possible. So obviously the main things you want to do for autumn is get lots of candles. These candles we bought from the Cotswolds a few weeks ago. These are just some really lovely terracotta pots with just some really simple fragrances in them. I've then sort of gone halfway through my Dalesford candle. This is one of my favourite candles from Dalesford. It's a bergamot candle. And then I also do have a tomato vine candle here, which is a really lovely tomato vine fragrance. This I prefer in the kitchen, but for the time being, we've got it in the lounge because I just love having lots of candles around me. And again, when you're looking at candles, try and get the most natural, sort of organic fragrances because you don't want lots of fumes and lots of bad air quality inside your home. But yeah, for autumn, I say stick with candles. I'm going to try and find some nice little autumnal dried sort of foraged plants that we can pop in here. Some floral displays I think will look quite nice either side of the fireplace. But I think for autumn especially, I do like to keep the inside quite simple. One thing that I love are dried hops, and I haven't ordered my dried hops yet, but I think this year I'd love to put some dried hops all the way across the fireplace to make it look really sort of like whimsical and cozy in here. But other than that, I'd say the living room probably doesn't get that much decoration. I'm not really the biggest fan of decorating for Halloween for the whole season. So what we'll do around Halloween is pop some pumpkins outside, maybe some gourds inside. But I like autumn to feel very sort of dried foliage, lots of like warm tones. We'll swap out some like brown tones, maybe some oranges. And I think that will do in here. So yeah, I think they are all of the updates for our living room for the time being. What we'll do now is head on into the dining room so I can show you the new rug that I bought. So this is just a very real video of what the house always looks like. But every single day I've got boxes everywhere. These are some boxes that need to be collected. So for the time being, we're just gonna have to ignore them. But this is the rug that I have ordered. I wanna be quite careful with opening this because I might have to return it. I'm not too sure. This rug is a traditional style I want to say like a Persian rug, but it's an old sort of traditional style wool rug. I have been looking for an antique rug for the longest time, but in all honesty, they're very expensive. I think they start, nice ones start at like £2,000. They can go all the way up to thousands and thousands of pounds. And quite frankly, I don't want to pay that much for not our forever home, and also for an antique rug that's most likely damaged and probably smells. So what I've done is I went on Pinterest the other day and I was served a beautiful ad from John Lewis for this rug, and I thought this is literally what I'm looking for, but from a new rug. So hopefully when we roll this out, it's gonna look nice in the room. It is more of a red color than I would have liked. I think I would have preferred sort of a pinkier rug color, but I think it's got a really lovely floral design on it. This definitely is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I think sometimes people may think that I can go a bit too much old worldy, but this is the design of the rug. Let me roll it out so we can see. I have just recorded this entire clip twice. The first time my camera died, which means I've lost all the footage. And the second time, the audio wasn't working, my microphone wasn't connected. So we're gonna do this for a third time and I hope this time it works. But this rug, online, it was coming across more of like a burgundy, deeper muted red shade. On camera and in real life, it's coming across quite bright scarlet red. And that isn't exactly what I had in mind for this rug. I still really love the pattern. I think it's quite interesting. And I think for a brand new rug, the cost of it is really, really good. I think it cost £500 for, I think it's 2.4 meters by like nearly 2 meters wide. So I think the price for this is really, really lovely, and it's a really lovely rug, but whether it's right for the room, I'm not too sure. There is another one on the John Lewis website that seems to be a bit better in terms of color choices. Obviously in this room, we have a really dark vintage oak color. So I kind of wanted the rug to sort of blend into the floor, not really be that stand out, and you sort of notice it as a small detail when you look closely, but this is quite standoutish. So let me know your thoughts on the rug. I also think the sizing is a little bit different to what it said online. I think it might be because it's hand woven, possibly, I'm not too sure, I'll have to check that, but it's a little bit shorter, and I did picture this rug being a little bit more wide. Not wall to wall. I'd never want a rug wall to wall, but I think it would look better a little bit bigger. One thing that I've learned is that in small rooms, sometimes the proportion of items, if they're bigger, can make the room feel a little bit bigger because there's less empty space. I noticed that with the castlery items that we had a few months ago, it just made the room feel really lovely and really quite sort of well suited for big pieces of furniture. So I'm in two minds as to whether to keep this. I'm gonna keep it for the next few hours, sort of live with it in the house, try and not let Fenton go on it. Yes, are you listening? And then sort of make my mind up after then. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. I'd love to know what you think. Some people will think it's really old and granny, too traditional for them. I really love these types of rugs. I've always really loved them. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. By the time you're watching this, it may be gone, it may be replaced, or it may still be here, I'm not too sure. I think the other thing throwing this rug off is the fact that there is no furniture in here. As you all know, we don't have a dining table, otherwise you'd be looking at it right now. So I think maybe you're noticing it more because there is no dining table. I'm not too sure. I'm very indecisive at the moment and I still haven't found a dining table. I have two on my radar that I really, really love. I'm quite stuck on whether I should go for a more modern style of dining table or whether I should stick with the traditional interiors and go for a more traditional antique style dining table. I have two that I found, like I just mentioned. The first is from a company called Ochre. Now, Ochre is quite expensive anyway, but this table that I found is, in my opinion, extortionately overpriced. It's a really beautiful espresso colored, I guess it kind of looks quite gothic with the legs, but it's this like really lovely, huge dining table. On their website, it's coming up for £4,250, I believe, which in my opinion is just absolutely extortionate, considering it's probably imported from abroad and not made of real wood. But that's one issue. I would never spend £4,000 on a modern dining table, so that's out of the window. But I really do love the style of the table. especially for a brand new one. But then the second one I found is from a company called Vinteria. Now, if you've never heard of Vinteria, it's kind of similar to eBay, sort of mixed with Facebook Marketplace, but it's more curated, and the items on there, they're more sort of like collectible, proper antiques. But again, it can be quite an expensive website. And I found this really beautiful walnut handmade bespoke, like 7 foot, I believe the style is marquetry dining table. It's got a really beautiful hand painted inlaid pattern on the top and the legs, which is really, really beautiful. And I think it would suit this house and our next house when we eventually move. So I think it would be quite a good investment. However, again, it's around £4,000 and I'm not paying £4,000 for a table. So I'm stuck on which dining table to go for. So any advice would be greatly appreciated. I think regardless of which table we go for in the end, I'd sort of offset the traditional looking table with some more upholstered modern dining chairs. I really do love some chairs I've seen from sofa.com. I believe they're called the Anders chair. They're quite simple in terms of their structure, but I think you can sort of go really interesting on the patterns and the fabrics with them. Maybe add some fringing, maybe some tassels, who knows? But yeah, I think a wooden table then with some upholstered chairs could look really interesting and could sort of fill the negative space in this room, and then make this rug seem less standoutish maybe. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions. That's where my head's at with this room. There's not really much I can do with this room in terms of making it autumnal. But again, when we go to Burford Garden Company tomorrow, I'll try and find some little bits that we can pop in this room to make it look a little bit nicer. So that's where this room is. Let me know your thoughts on it. I'm probably going to take this one for a walk now because, as you can probably tell from this video, he's being very fidgety and very lively. So he needs to go for a walk, and then we're probably going to head on out for the rest of the day. We're actually going to a Castlereagh event, which I'll take you with today as well. Castlereagh is the company I worked with. It was actually filmed at the start of the year, but I just posted a reel about them recently. They're a really lovely company who've just launched in the UK. And if modern interiors is your thing, they're definitely a really good place to check out. But we're going to head on over to the event that they're having in, I think it's in Marylebone. I'm not too sure where it is actually, I need to check. But they've hired out this whole house and they're going to style the house with all of the pieces of furniture that they have. And we'll get to meet the team, and hopefully it'll be a nice little event to go to. And then after that, Chad and I are heading out to dinner with some friends, which should be really lovely. So yeah, we're going to take you with us for as much as we can. So let's take this one out before he gets a bout of the zoomies. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to what looks to be the last sunny day before we get autumn weather. We went to Burford Garden Company yesterday, and in all honesty, we probably shouldn't have gone. It was around a 2-hour and 10-minute drive to get there. And what I would say is I think a couple of weeks ago when we went, it was the perfect time for the end of summer, and now they're clearing everything away. So I think they're swapping everything out to get ready for autumn. So we were in that really weird transition phase when we went there, which basically meant there wasn't a lot of stock. So all of the hydrangeas that we wanted to pick up were no longer there. The autumn stuff wasn't really in. The main reason we went was to get some stuff for like autumn decorating. So we got some stuff for a wreath that I'm going to probably make with you in a second. But yeah, it was a bit disappointing because I think they just sort of got everything out and ready for autumn/winter. So we might have to go back in a few weeks' time. We definitely want to go back for autumn and 100% for winter because Burford Garden Company at Christmas time is absolutely incredible. They've got so many gorgeous like wrapping papers, ribbons, boxes, cards. It just is really, really wonderful. So we'll definitely try and head back in a few weeks' time. Probably twice before the end of the year. But I thought I'd really quickly run through with you what we picked up. We only got a few things, as I mentioned, which is a shame because it was a, 4-hour round trip? Not including the time we're at the garden centre. But where do I start? So let's start with the things we're going to do first of all. So last year, if you watched my channel, I think I recorded it for YouTube, but I made an autumnal wreath for the front of our door. I'm not sure how common autumnal wreaths are, and if you guys do them, let me know down below in the comments if it's something that you do or if you think it's a waste of time, waste of money. I'm not too sure, but it's something I quite like to do because I feel like in autumn, especially at the front of our house, there isn't really too much going on. In a few weeks' time, all of the leaves are going to fall off the wisteria. The hydrangeas are already sort of turning to a lovely brown shade. So I think it's a really nice way to pop in a bit of colour, and it just sort of makes autumn a bit nicer to look at from the front of your house anyway. So what I have done is I have picked up a wreath base. Let me just show you that first. Now, this wreath base is absolutely humongous, but the idea is to reuse this. Now, I would have reused the one I had last year, however, it was not stored correctly and it was quite broken. So we had to get rid of that at the earlier part of this year. So this one is, I don't know if it's hops. So this is hop branches. So this would have been covered in lovely little dried hop flowers. But Burford Garden Company are really lovely and they do lots of like willow bases, lots of different ones. So I think this will be a really nice base for our front door. And then what we'll do is weave in all the little bits that we've bought alongside it. So I think these are amaranthus. Yes, so I got 2 stems of amaranthus. Again, these are real plants, they're just dried. They do sell, I think it's a white version of this as well, but this is like a deep sort of like sumac red colour, which I think is really, really beautiful. Sorry for all the dust that's going to come off these. A lot of people keep commenting about the dust situation going on in the house, but as you can see, when you have a dark background and the sun is shining directly on you into the room, can you even see that dust? Yes, you can. Dust just shows up really badly. So the house is very clean. We even have an air purifier on down here, but it just happens in the house, which is really annoying. Amaranthus is going to be sort of woven in to this base. I think it will sort of give a really nice structure. I only got 2 of these because they are quite expensive. These are £12 each. We then got some Setaria Red Jewel. I'm not sure if that's the name of it or what they call it, but this is like a really pretty dried grass flower. I thought this would look more like autumn harvest. Last year we did lots of red leaves. Ideally this year I did want to do something a bit different, but they only had red leaves. So we've got 3 of these, which I think will look quite nice. They were, again, £12. And then the same as last year, they sell these, I believe they're preserved beech leaves or beech branches. There aren't that many of them, so hopefully I've bought enough foliage for this wreath, but that came to, I think they again were, oh no, they were £20 a bunch, and you don't really get that much on a bunch. So I got that one, and then I also picked up this one, which has more sort of golden leaves. Ideally, this was the colour scheme that I wanted to go for this year. I wanted to do sort of like purples and browns, so I thought if I could find more of this shade, add in some of these, and then more like browny purples, it would look quite nice, but unfortunately they didn't have it, so we're working with what we've got. So we're going to tie in the reds, the purples, the browns into this and make it look really nice, hopefully. So yeah, we're going to go do that in a second. But other things we bought, they also sell really lovely dog leads. This one is a really lovely green shade. I don't know if you can see that, if it's picking up on camera. And I like these for Fenton when we're sort of out and about in town. He normally has like an extendable lead, and obviously we let him off lead in the fields and stuff, but I think it's nicer to walk a dog on a short lead that feels more secure. And this looks quite fancy. So it's got a really lovely brass detailing on the bottom. I think the company's called The Stately Hound. So if I can find them online, I will link them. But they're all made in England, and I think they look really lovely. So we picked up one of these in green, and then a few weeks ago we also picked up the blue one, which I seem to have misplaced in the house. I'm not too sure where that's gone, but that's another thing that we picked up. We bought 3 of these really beautiful aged terracotta pots. They have a really pretty scalloped detail. Scalloped? Yeah, I'd call that a scalloped detail at the top. Other than that, they're quite simple, but I really like the size of them. And this one has a really lovely patina on it. I don't know if you can see it. Sort of been sat outside probably for a bit long. It's got like a nice finish on the outside. So we picked up 3 of those. And then inside those pots, I've decided to buy 3, no, we've got 2 of these, sorry. Really big plants that we also have in the garden. I think this is called wire vine. I always forget the name of this, but I think it's one of my favourite plants. It's an evergreen. Fenton, stop chewing the wreath. It's an evergreen that sort of does really well inside houses in the shade. And I think this in the lounge in either side of the bookcase will look really lovely. So I picked up 2 of these. And then just to show you as well, this is one of the other pots that I got. So it's the exact same, but this is just more sort of aged, more battered and bruised. And I think this looks really lovely in the bookcase, which I might turn around and show you in a second. Sorry, I just had to go and grab the door. You might be able to see, but I've just popped down a rug underlay because I've decided not to keep the rug, which I don't even know what the rug is, the rug that I showed you earlier. I've decided not to keep that because it's too small, so I've ordered the exact same rug in a bigger size, and then I can make my mind up after then. So yeah, that's what that is in the floor. But I think they are all of the home pieces that we picked up in Burford. Again, it wasn't really that successful, so I'd recommend if you're looking to go to Burford, hold off for a couple of weeks until we're truly in sort of peak autumn, because their autumnal displays will be a lot better, and there should be a lot more pieces in there for you, especially if you're looking to decorate for autumn, winter. They normally do a really good sort of Halloween-y section in there, so hold off for a few weeks is my personal opinion. I also picked up a few other things, but these are more like foodie items. I can never pass up the opportunity to get some smoked garlic. If you ever seem to come across it, always pick it up because it makes, I was gonna ask you to smell it then. It makes really, really lovely dishes. So many things you can do with it. You can make it into like garlic butters. You can add it to literally anything and it will just give like a really smoky flavor. And then I also just picked up, really boring, some superfood overnight oats. This is cacao, goji and fig. There's no added sugars. It's really high in fiber and it's really good for you. So I thought I'd try and make some of these for myself because I recently have not been eating breakfast and I think it really affects my productivity. I'm the sort of person that needs coffee and food as soon as I wake up, otherwise I cannot function. So we're gonna trial the overnight oats, see how I get on, and I might report back to you if I like them. But other than that, I think we're pretty much done on the home front. There is one more thing, I keep saying that I've ordered that I also do want your opinion on. Let me show you. So, the dreaded fireplaces. I have been talking about our fireplaces for the longest time, probably since I started this channel, but as you all know, we have 2 fireplaces that we constructed in the house when we basically moved in. As soon as we moved in, we built these 2 fireplaces. They're not working fireplaces, so they have no chimney flue. They're basically just for show and for sort of adding in a bit of character. And since we've had them constructed, they've just been sat empty, unfinished, and looking really ugly. They're not even painted properly. They're just an eyesore. So I have been going to and fro with ideas. I've asked you for ideas. I've asked everyone for ideas. You might think this is the most obvious thing to do, but what I've come to realize is I'm just going to use brick slips. So we're going to go for an old sort of like traditional style brick pattern. So the normal brick format. I don't know if you can tell the color of these, but from my research that I've done, fireplaces we usually built with red brick. Our house, obviously, you know, is yellow brick. So Chad and I are going to and fro saying, should we use yellow brick or should we use red brick? But in my eyes and in my opinion, from my research, it looks as though fireplaces are always done in red brick. I'm not sure if that's because red bricks are better for the heat, not too sure. Obviously it won't make a difference with ours because we don't have real fire going in there. So these are the tiles I have shortlisted. They're from a company called Brick Tile Company. I think these are actually sold out, which is a shame, but I've just ordered them for sort of an idea of what they'll look like. Ideally, I'd like to actually find some reclaimed bricks, some bricks that are quite sooty, bricks that look like they've been in a house for hundreds of years. But I think what we're going to have to do is just order some brick slips because there isn't enough room to have like a full dimension of brick inside our fireplace. So these are the ones I've gone with at the moment. I think what we're going to do is get our tiler to come around, have a look. But the whole goal for this fireplace is to make it look as though it's always been there. So I don't really want the grout to be sort of really, really pretty and sort of really well done. I think I want to pipe in the grouting so it's quite thick, maybe smear some around, sort of chip some out. So yeah, I want to make it look battered, bruised, and like it's always been there. And then I think what we're going to do in the living room is pull up the carpet, and there is actually concrete sort of foundations for where the fireplace would have been. So what I think I'm going to do is order a nice like border of the same colour style wood that we have in the rest of the house downstairs. So like an oak vintage parquet colour. Sort of make a nice border. I'm not going to personally do it because I will mess it up and make it look ugly. So we're going to hire someone to do it. But I think create a nice border out of wood, and then fill in the base of the fireplace with concrete. Try and maybe come up with a DIY that makes it look a little bit older than just brand new concrete, because I think what I really love from a fireplace is just brick and concrete. I think that's what, when I look at sort of inspiration images, they're the ones I'm always drawn to. So I think that's what we're going to go with in both fireplaces, and then we're just going to find a bioethanol fireplace, log burner to be specific, pop it in the fireplace, and then it's done. This has been a job on my to-do list for nearly, what, 3.5 years? So we're finally gonna tick it off. Chad's gonna message our tiler. Hopefully in a few weeks' time it'll all be done. So that is the update with the fireplaces. Please let me know your thoughts. Again, I would love to know if you like the idea, if you think it's just very basic and you think I should do something more interesting. But again, personally, I think the simpler, the better. And with that, I believe they are all of the new purchases that we have made recently. I'm probably going to take this wreath into the kitchen now, fiddle around with it and try and make it look really lovely. And then we'll go and hang it on the door so we're ready for autumn. This is definitely something that you should probably do on a dining table. As you all know, we don't have a dining table, so I'm going to have to do it in this corner of the kitchen. But essentially what we're going to do, and this is definitely, I'm going to do this by trial and error, but I'm probably just going to cut little pieces off of the branch and then stick them in. Try and do them quite evenly around, and then we'll just fill in the gaps with the different types of foliage. I honestly don't know how this is going to come across, so this might be awful and I might not show this in the video. But let's give it a try and see how it ends up. All I would say when you're doing this is you want to go in the same direction. So you want all of your sort of plants to flow outwards in the same way. How does that look just for the leaves? Is it even? I can't really see at the moment, so I'm gonna have to pop it down and come back to it. But what I'll do now is go in with, I think we're gonna go for this grass. sort of things that look a bit reedy. So again, I'm just going to sort of fiddle these in, probably cut them down to about half in size, and then work them in. Again, wrong way around. Again, just with the grain of the wreath. Okay, right, so I think I've still got quite a few spare plants, or flowers, should I say, but I think I'm done. I need to go and test to see if this fits in our door, because our door is very narrow. So let's go and see if this fits. So the door just about closes. This is what it looks like from the outside. I might have to sort of fiddle with it to sort of tidy all the little bits up down here, so it's more even, but I think I really like how it looks. I think I'm going to sign off the video here, guys. My mum is actually on her way down from the Cotswolds. She's going to spend a nice long weekend with us here, so we've got a few things planned for her. I will obviously record as much as I can for next week's video, but I think I'm going to sign off the video here. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Let me know down below your thoughts on the fireplaces, on the wreath, lots of things to discuss. Have a wonderful weekend, and I shall see you next Sunday.